G'day guys and welcome to another episode of the Scouting Australia podcast powered by Australian Property Scout Buyers Agency. I'm your host, Sammy Gordon, and guys, today we have a very, very special episode. We've got the big dog, the big silver dog that is, Mr. Jimmy Ibrahim.
G'day
back
everyone.
In the studio. Mate, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. Very excited about today's episode.
Very excited. Mate, it is a special app. Today we've got the lovely Miss Morgan Holmes. She is well known for those of you that are Australian Property Scout clients. She is a senior buyer's agent over at Australian Property Scout. She's also recently appointed general manager. She takes care of bloody almost everything.
The GM.
The GM, mate. The big GM. Miss Morgan Holmes, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, I've got a bit of a rap sheet here for you. There's apparently some great achievements here that you've got across the board. As of recording right now, we don't know who the winner is, but we hear that you're also a finalist as a Rising Star category at the REB Awards. So big congratulations on that.
Thank you.
How good's that? How many? That is an incredible. Let's not glaze over that because
the Rising Star category, man, is the people they see in the industry that are going to make the biggest change. That's what the Rising Star Award and the category is all about. So that's a massive achievement to be in there for that.
How many are in this finalist? Like you're one of the finalists.
Yeah, I think it's 10 across Australia.
Yes, it's the whole of Australia. There's a top 10 finalist sort of category.
That is phenomenal. Congratulations.
Thank
Top
you.
10 in Australia. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I know because obviously Morgs is an incredible buyer's agent. She's amazing at what she does. But you are the first female guest that we've had on the podcast, which is awesome. And rightfully so, because many people would know that Morgan obviously works with Australian Property Scout, but she is your better half.
She is.
Much better looking half, may I add.
Much better looking than you, but that doesn't take much. So no offense, Morgs, but you're not cutting too hard to beat this fella.
So we are super excited because I think your story resonates with so many of our listeners out there because a lot of our audience are, of course, females, and you've got an incredible story that I know you're going to share with us. You've done exceptionally well in property, and I know you've got a lot to cover.
I'm very excited, mate. I'm very excited because I think for a lot of women out there, like to actually have a crack at this thing, for people to actually go out there and have a go, there's very few people that have done really well out of it. So I love the story. There's a lot of sacrifices come in there as well, some really smart decisions, and really just going really hard for a couple of years and having a great success story. So like I'm really excited to jump into it and to take off.
Yeah.
Can we start all the way back at the start, Morgs? Because I know that you've gone through a bit about, your background and where you've come from. And
yeah, I agree, Jimmy, mate. It would be great to know Morgs. I guess people want to know right back to the start because there's a lot of women out there starting out and even especially young ladies coming, because you're 26, right?
Yeah.
I should know that
probably
one.
should.
I probably should know,
When's
but
my
you're 20. But it's not hard to figure that one. You Christmas miracle. This one, born on Christmas Day. But I think a lot of people starting out, right? They come out of school, they don't really know where to go or what to do when they come out. It's a big decision to make when you're 16, 17, 18 sort of years old. What are we going to do coming out of school? So I'd love just to probably peel it all the way back to when you finish school, you've come out, you're fresh. What did you do? What did you start? Just talk us through those first couple of years of your journey from that side.
So I graduated grade 12 at 16. And didn't really have any idea on what I wanted to do. I didn't get the best OP, so there wasn't really too many options either. I think as well, when you decide what you're going to do, when you finish school, you're deciding that in grade, I think at the end of grade 10, so I would have been 14. So I didn't really plan ahead of what that was going to mean when I finished school. So I had a job already. I think I got my first job when I was 13. So I was still working there when I finished school.
So you're working part-time while you're at school?
Yeah, part-time. I used to work from 4 till 6 at a pet shop.
Oh, that's
at
good.
The pet shop.
that's a great gig.
Yeah.
I don't like working at a pet shop.
As long as your cats, you're probably just giving them cuddles, you probably weren't even working, were you?
Yeah, not really.
You weren't looking after a bull shark back then, were you though?
There was one in the tank. He was just sitting in there.
Just growing.
He's just growing. Little baby bully. Sorry, it's okay. So you're working part-time at the pet shop. You finished school. You've come out of school. And so you were still doing that job for a while?
Yes, I did it. I just started working more full-time when I finished school. And my next door neighbour owned an LJ hooker in Ormo. Okay. So she used to come in all the time and see me working, and she asked if I can start doing Saturdays at LJ Hooker, which is about 9 months into my first year out of school. So I started I think I started doing the Saturdays, and then within a few weeks, her full-time receptionist had quit.
Okay.
So then she asked if I could start doing reception, which then I think I was there for 2.5 years in the end, and ended up
just doing the reception at the LJs, or did you grow into any other roles there?
Yeah, so I went into like sales admin.
Okay.
So doing like contracts and helping with the new sales agents come in and with her marketing and prospecting. And then I moved to another LJ Hooker office in Beenleigh. And
so you were there that at the Ormo one for about 2.5 years, you said? So you're around about 20 when you go to LJ Beenleigh?
Yeah,
LJ
I think I might have been 19.
Okay,
So I got into real estate when I was 17.
Okay, sweet.
And I had to wait a few months because I think I started there around September or October, and I wasn't 18 until end of December.
Okay.
So I had to wait till I was 18 to be able to do my real estate course to start working more in the industry. So I did that through LJ Hooker Ormo, and then moved over to LJ Hooker Beenleigh 2.5 years later, and worked in like a similar role in sales admin and contracts.
Yep.
And then went into like a sales assistant role, I think 2 years into being at that office.
Cool.
And did that for a year or so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So did you always like real estate? Like from the first moment you did it, you thought this is what I want to do, or it was just one of those things that you thought I'll do it for now?
Yeah, I think I had never thought about it before, but then after like a year of being in it, I felt like I had learnt so much that there wasn't really any other option to stay, because it would be such a waste of everything I picked up. And I think as well, knowing like I was 19 with more knowledge than people that were coming in to get jobs as sales agents and being able to teach them, it felt really good to know so much about something. So I think that's why I stuck it out and stayed in the industry, even though at that time it wasn't a very high paying job.
Well, I think that's a really important thing to know. And I think with like ladies starting out, especially because a lot of girls, they come out of high school and they'll jump straight into property, whether it's sales, admin, or literally receptionist roles or property management in those sorts of departments. And the pay on first entry is so low. It's like,
but is that for everyone? Or is there a big distinction between men and women when they come out into real estate?
Well, most, I mean, I'm going out, I guess, a little bit on a limb on saying this thing, but most guys won't go out and do like a receptionist role at an office. And a lot of the time, it's front of house. A lot of the time they do get young girls straight out of school, looking pretty, don't have to pay them much, sit at the front desk, act nice, all the rest of sort of stuff, for that sort of entry level role before they then step them up into, see how they go in that. But it's a very low paying role. It's typically minimum wage, pretty much just to fill that very basic level of entry into the game. And then obviously people who do well, like Morgs did, they get taken to the next level, and then the people that don't. It can be quite a high turnover role because it is so low paying, especially in that entry level. So if they don't move on.
It's a way in, right?
Yeah.
It's an opening in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, fair enough. And okay, so then they obviously identified your talent, because you sound like you moved pretty quickly in the roles.
Yeah, the first office I moved, like they upgraded it from reception to like a combined reception and contracts administrator role quite quickly. And then when I went into the second office, it was just contracts, so I didn't have to manage reception, which was good. But the reception side of things did teach me more about like property management and a lot more on that side of things. So I've never worked in like a property management role, but being in that role, you learn so much about what's happening. And
it's like the gatekeeper, right?
Yes.
Because the receptionist controls everything. Anyone who comes in, the keys, or they know what's going on. It's like, you know everything, right?
Yeah.
You know the ins and outs of the office.
And so when you've gone to the LJ at Beenleigh, you were there, just run us through the timelines of there before you obviously exited there too, but because you were there for 3 years, right? At LJ Hooker Beenleigh?
I think it was 3.5.
Okay, sweet. And so for a year, you were essentially, again, similar sort of role to before, and then you moved into the sales associate role for 2.5 years.
Yeah, I think it was about 2 years in the contract role.
Okay.
And I also did like the accounts with the owner, and then I went into the sales assistant role.
Okay.
For about a year.
Yep.
Which was still really similar, like a lot of admin and contracts, but it was also like more in buyer inspections, and I'd do every second Saturday for open homes, and I got more of a feel of like interacting more with buyers, which I did really like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's good.
And the salary around that, just to give people context, because your journey is pretty incredible. What was your salary back then in those roles?
So when I went into a sales assistant role, I got a slight pay decrease.
Decrease?
Decrease.
Is that because you're on comms? Is that?
Yeah. So it was
Do you see what I mean, Jimmy, about base level, like entry level bloody real estate? They try and shaft him, eh? It's,
and just for people listening,
how much could I rot this young lady?
But people listening out there, I just want to make sure that no one's taking this the wrong way, because when you said before about having someone pretty on the reception, we're not gender stereotyping
Not at
in
all.
any way.
Not at all.
For anyone,
dude,
listening
I'm in the real estate game. You know what I mean? Like I'm laying it out for how it works.
Exactly. So the reception, So your salary, you went backwards a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
From where to where?
I think it was about $3,000 a year, which isn't that much, but I think I was on 43 as like 5 years experience in real estate doing contracts. And then when I went to a sales assistant role, it went down to 40 with potential for bonuses.
Okay.
Which,
Well, real estate, let's face it, it is all a comms game, really.
Yeah.
It
A lot of
is,
right?
It is. The issue with the sales associate comms space is it's a minuscule amount of what the sales agent makes on top. So that's why, like, when you first come in, it can be a bit of a brutal game on that front. But I think it was around this point that Morgs obviously, knew her worth and knew there was more out there and wanted a different challenge. And I'll let you talk through, I guess, what kind of came after that point when you decided it was time to move on.
I think the whole year being in that role was good for my confidence, because I knew a lot, but I wasn't super comfortable talking to people or going out of my comfort zone. But doing that and like turning up in inspections and not knowing who was going to be there, and doing open homes where there was a fair few groups coming through, it helped me realize that I could potentially go find something a bit more rewarding. And I knew that, like, I'd worked in the industry a long enough time that I did deserve, something a bit better.
More.
Yeah.
And a bit more opportunity. And I think that was the thing. It was
Yeah.
really capped at that sort of office compared to where she could have gone somewhere else where maybe there was a few more opportunities.
And just so people understand the full context of where we're at here, because we're about to launch into some really juicy things. But so you living at home at that
Are you talking
time?
about when she met me?
Well,
Mate,
that-
we're keeping
that-
PG rated, right? Let's
That's
keep
where
the
it goes
juicy side.
downhill. I'm talking about the upside. So,
Goes downhill. Might go off a cliff when she meets you, mate.
so were you living at home then? Or renting?
When I was finishing up there, I might have just moved back home.
Okay.
But I was renting for a little bit, which on like my salary with like paying for all the cost of living at a home. And that was another big push to get out away from that job, was I kind of worked out with everything I need to spend, which I wouldn't say I have a lot of expenses in, like.
You live a pretty frugal life. You
I
don't
don't
go out
have.
and spend big.
Wasn't.
You're not buying Louis every year.
No. No, I get a haircut once a year. So I think I worked out I could save about $5,000 a year, which I back then wanted to buy a home one day. But looking at that, I was like, in 5 years, I'm going to have 25,000, and I have a feeling property prices are going to be a little different and it's not going to get me too far. So it was really hard to see how I could kind of get past this point. And I think as well, knowing I had this experience, and a lot of my friends knew I worked in real estate, they thought that I earned good money and would like come to me and talk to me about getting into real estate because they know how much money there is to be made. And I was like, yeah, there is. Maybe just go to a different kind of role than what I'm doing.
But I think that's a really important point, because people from the outside see it as a real glamorous industry. You're watching on TV and you're looking on
Lux listings.
There's a lot of grafting early days, especially
Yeah.
when you're starting out. It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
So you did your time. I mean, and I think for people listening out there, those kind of numbers, we glazed over them very quickly. But what I identified is that you thought, you know what? I can see that this isn't making anything better for me.
Yeah.
I need to change my circumstance. I need to do something different. And that's when you started to flow into looking at, okay, what else can I do?
Yeah.
Which leads us to your next move.
Well, this is a funny thing as well, because you and I spoke about mindset a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, whatever it was. We were chatting about the mindset and the knowing your value, knowing what you're worth. And
Yes.
I remember Morgs has told me the story where she's gone and tried to get a pay increase or try and see if there's different opportunities to make more money, which weren't there. So she's gone and realized that the potential isn't there. She needs to move on. She needs to do this for herself. And man, I think that's a really important, and it's an empowering thing to do. When you move on, you make that decision to look after you, put yourself number one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And move on.
So where did it all change? What happened then? I feel like we're getting to a real point end here.
I'll jump in for a second. You want me to jump in or you want Morgs to say it?
Well, what would you prefer, Morgs? Would you like him to control the narrative here? This is
I'm going to jump in. So I was obviously a buyer's agent at the time. I was actually in my first year of business.
This is 2019.
This is 2019. Yep. So probably mid 2019.
Yep.
I was looking around. I had a couple of clients on the books that were looking for cheap units in that sort of area, just something to get themselves off the ground and get some deals under the belt with very low budgets. So I was out there hunting those sorts of deals for clients, and this is where I met Morgs' boss, and then kind of went through a few and cut a long story short, met Morgs on that trip as well, looking through properties, and we kind of stayed in touch, like talking about different deals and whatnot as it kind of went through, a little bit further along. And then on one of my next trips up, we kind of just caught up, look at a couple of properties.
Okay.
Went out, got some dinner, had a couple of drinks.
Hold on.
Blah, blah, blah.
You've just gone straight over the juice. Everyone listening at the moment is going, hold on, Sammy. Don't just go straight. You just glazed over the best part. First impressions is what I know. We're going to talk about numbers, but we can't. This is why
the big question you're probably going to cut. Okay,
this is
hurry up, get to it.
This is why I'm sitting in the middle to control this.
Yeah. You're a mediator.
I want to know what your first impressions, Morgs. When you first saw Sammy Boy, he was probably a lot skinnier back then.
This is funny.
He was a lot skinnier back then, I'm sure.
Shredded. Let's use the right terms.
What was your first impression when you? Because he's in Sydney, right? So he came up from Sydney.
Yeah.
So what? Run us through.
This is a piss day. You're going to laugh at this.
Go on.
So I wasn't meant to go to the inspection, and I don't think you weren't meant to go to the inspection
No, she
either.
kept trying to drag me. I was like, I don't fucking want to look at that thing. It's too much. I didn't want to look at it.
Yeah.
Oh, so you were communicating via email.
Me and my boss were talking,
okay.
and
I didn't met Morgs this time.
Okay.
Yeah, she had been taking Sam through a couple other properties, and there was another buyer booked to go into this unit, and she was running behind with Sam. So she said, "Can you come to the inspection and take this buyer through? I'm going to bring this guy Sam through so he can check it out as well."
Yes.
So I turned up. And she turned up with Sam, but Sam didn't know who I was. So
He thought you were another buyer.
I thought she was a tenant. I go,
Yeah.
fuck out, what's a tenant? She goes, that's my assistant.
Is that what you said to the property manager?
to her boss, to the sales agent. I was like, fuck out, what's a tenant? Oh, yeah, all right, I'll take it.
I'll pay overs.
you still didn't even put an offer in.
Definitely not. It
So
was fucking way overpriced.
So obviously you caught Sammy's eye, but from your side, when you saw this strapping young bull shark coming in,
I know I tried to be cool and talk about like the state of origin, and I had no idea about football, and I was like, oh yeah, I can get us some tickets to the origin, hoping that he'd like listen and think I was cool.
So I said to your boss.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I'm a soccer fan. I don't
Yeah.
follow footy.
I know,
So
he doesn't, yeah.
Probably did nothing.
So there was an instant connection, obviously. There was certain that.
Let's
certain
keep
chemistry.
moving. Let's keep it to context of what it
I'm
is.
just saying there was a little bit of, and obviously that's where it all started between
Yeah.
you two. So back and forth.
I'll run through it as well, right?
Go
Just
for
for this point here. So that was obviously like I think it was June, July. Nothing sort of happened. Later in the
Yeah.
year, we were kind of talking about different properties.
I was your contact for LJ Hooker.
Yes.
To
Yes. So then
talk about listings and negotiations.
Yeah, so we started talking about more properties
Sliding
and
into
moving through on
your
that
DMs.
side. That's it, mate. Straight in. And then man, like at the end of the year, we started seeing each other at that point. And then man, I found out I knew she was starting to look at other jobs at this point as well. We were talking about it and whatnot. I came in as a bit of a mentor. No, not really. Like we just, she was telling me about going and having a couple of interviews and different things that had been lined up. And we was doing pretty well in the business at this point as well. And so I was looking at, well, I kind of need someone, and I'm doing a fair bit of work up in Brizzy. Maybe this could work on that side. She was looking to move on. I needed someone else as well, from probably a receptionist and like almost like a BA associate role as well. And I knew she was being underpaid for the quality of what she was bringing. And yeah, man. So it kind of grew from there. Sorry to jump on there, Morgs. It's just I needed to cut off a bit of Jimmy's waffling.
I think what the reason why I like that is
Yeah.
From your side, correct me if I'm wrong, Morgs, we always talk about your circle of influence, and often you're only one circle away of things changing for you. And obviously, Sammy, as we know, he loves the business and he loves making sure that he's surrounded by good people. So he clearly identified the talent in you, and you obviously wanted something more. So for people out there, you're never too far away of changing your circumstance to get yourself into that leveling up, as you said.
Yeah.
And you found a niche that you started to really enjoy, right? As a buyer's agent and understanding the business.
Yeah, I feel like it was a really good fit as well, because I had a lot of knowledge in contracts and the back end of real estate, and Sam had all the knowledge of like the investing side of it. So I think
in a nutshell, that means I'm extremely good at putting deals together. I'm shit at the back end, or I was shit at the back end.
I think everyone would have a fair idea
that your face looks like shit. Yes. Anyway.
Well, you can't. You know what? This is a good point because you can't be great at everything. Understand your strengths and surround yourself with people that are better than you at other things. So I don't blame you for that.
Thank you,
not being. I'll blame you for a whole bunch of other stuff, but I don't blame you for that. So you obviously
I cannot help how you look, mate. I just got to throw that.
You complimented each other for your work, and so then you started getting into the BA side of things.
Yeah, so I actually went first part-time at my current role and did that for a few months alongside starting part-time with Sam as well. But I did make the move from Queensland and New South Wales. So I moved in February 2020, right at the start of that month, just before COVID.
Yeah, that was pretty intense.
What a way to kickstart a relationship.
Yeah, we went from 6 months long distance to within 1 month in isolation together.
What are you doing here every day?
Working together.
And I'm an extremely individual person. I don't deal well with a lot of close contact.
Well, there's a reason why sharks don't like to be caged.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
Well, so we quickly expedited the relationship to another level because clearly COVID does that for a lot of relationships, right?
Yeah.
But then that was a really good time for the market too, right?
Yeah.
So on that side,
it was a crazy first 12 months. So obviously Morgs came into the business around about Feb 2020. And then to kind of fast track this into, let's jump kind of portfolio wise, right? Really, it was kind of the first 12 months. When COVID hit, a lot of things sort of changed. And to be blunt on that side, Morgs actually, she had to kind of jump in on that side where we kind of, to be blunt on this thing, I covered Morgs' living expenses, but I wasn't paying it for the first kind of 3-4 months because we had to scale back because everything hit with COVID. And it was like, shit, everyone went missing for a while. You know what I mean? And so
it was that period, wasn't it?
It was a really, really awkward time. And then obviously things started picking up a bit again. People realized the world wasn't ending. There was people starting to, get a bit ballsy and go, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of this. And then obviously we're able to put her on a fair, salary for what she was worth. But I think at the time, probably even a little bit under, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 grand or something like that. In terms of, I'm sorry if I'm jumping the gun here a bit, but it was something around that we kind of came in on. Very, very normal sort of salary for starting out in a job like this, and then really just kind of work that up, and which is working hard all the way until early 2021, where you jumped in and made the first purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tell us a bit about that. So it wasn't too long after that your first deal was done.
Yeah.
Well, it was. If we're actually talking timeframes, it was
about a year.
It was May 21, right?
And I think it also your
March,
portfolio during COVID. There was a lot going on there. Yeah. So it wasn't really on the radar for me to start even looking to buy at that point. So I think, April, I think I might have put the contract on the first property in 2021.
One other thing I'll say as well is obviously Morgs has started from a very low base. Something I'll throw out here, people might be thinking, oh, Sammy's thrown in some cash, he's helped her out. You realise, guys, she probably wasn't on a wage until I don't know, May or June or something like that in the
year before.
Yeah, in 2020. And then it would have taken you around about 12 months to save up that first deposit. I've never given Morgs any money to start a portfolio, and that's because that's not who I am, and that's not who she never asked for anything. And she said from the very start, I don't want to take anything from you other than what I deserve as a wage. And then I want to build this thing myself. And I was very much in the same vein of it's the same as when I have kids. I'm not going to hand things out to my kids because it's not going to create the right, brain. We were talking about this.
The right mindset. Yeah,
exactly, man. So this is how it was. It took her, that kind of 8, 9, 10 months to save her first deposit to be able to buy her first place. And it was a crazy time because the market had started kicking at this point. So it was almost like she missed that bottom end of the window saving for that first deposit. So it was a crazy little period there.
And were you inspired? I mean, when you're surrounded by Sammy and doing that, during COVID and his portfolio, just the power of, I always talk to people about the power of proximity. What was that like for you being in that environment?
Yeah, it was definitely motivating to want to get in there. And I think as well, seeing other first timers come in and buy their property as well I think Sam's portfolio by then was pretty impressive even at that point, a couple of years ago. I think looking at people just getting started was where I saw myself I want to get there and just get into it.
Which is awesome. So you're seeing other people that are doing this in their journey and you're like, you know what, I can do that.
Yeah.
Taking inspiration
Which
from
is
that.
awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. And I knew the price point we were buying in was a bit more affordable than where I had been working, and the returns as well were a lot stronger. So I could see how, like it all made sense. Like I'd been in real estate for so long, but never really knew that much about investing. Like we had people who would come through and want to buy an investment property, and it was a very like, if you buy it for 400 and it rents for 400, that's great. So like the standards were very low for what they were looking for.
Let's talk us through deal number one. Let's jump into deal number one. You saved yourself your deposit.
How long did it take you to save the first deposit?
I think I may have had a little bit saved up. A little bit. I never was someone
Wouldn't have been much.
No, it wouldn't have been heaps, but I was never someone to have like nothing left in my bank.
So we're talking 5-10 grand.
Maybe like 5 grand to start with. And then I would have just saved a lot. During COVID, I like didn't have any extra costs. I had no friends in New South Wales, so it was a very like
no big nights.
There wasn't really
it was COVID as well, right? So nothing was open and we were just pretty much just working.
From your KFC budget.
Down in Nara.
So you were able to save a decent amount of money, which is good.
I was pretty much like saving, most of what I earned because I didn't have any excess costs of
living below your means, which is awesome.
Like my car was, barely costing me anything. Yep. So there wasn't too much to take away from saving. So I think it probably did take the 12 months.
Okay.
I also, when I finished up on my other job, I think I was like, I was owed a bunch of leave. So
of course,
that probably would have kickstarted the start of my
but still, probably would have taken
savings.
you that 8 to 10 months to save that first deposit to be able to do the first deal.
And we're talking around, was it about 20K based on these? Is that right? The deposit?
I don't.
Nah. So if we talk to the numbers on the first deal, obviously deposit, stamp duty, closings, everything, you would have been in for around about 35K, I think, on that first deal. Something around about that. I charged her a BA fee. I sourced a deal. Double comms on it. No, I definitely didn't. But let's talk through the first deal, Morgs. Run us through the numbers.
Run us through it.
So it was off market or on market?
I'll run through a little bit.
Well, you are the buyer's agent.
I'm the I saw this deal.
We looked at it and then it didn't come together, and then it was sent out on like a mailing list that I saw and sent it to you.
So I
actually found my first deal.
I like that.
I had negotiated on this deal months earlier. So if we're talking May 21, the market had really started to kick. This deal was out in Ipswich, out to the southwest of Brizzy, about half an hour out, and I had negotiated on this deal around about 6 months earlier with the agent. I was actually very close with the agent that this was with. And I negotiated on it for about 6 months, but at the time, it was in the high 200,000s. Like if you remember Nick Wilcox's story, guys, from I don't know, 2-3 months ago, the same area that we were tallying up deals for him in the $280,000 to $290,000 bracket, that bracket had now moved. We'd shifted past the bottom, but I was still trying to get so they were 280, 290, that we were buying them for, they were worth about 330. But now that 330 had now gone to 350, 360 because of the market, and the discounts were harder to get. So I was trying to get Morg something in those high 200s. It was very, very hard. And so I was trying to get that deal. I think the deal actually went under contract at 310. What happened was there was these huge structural issues with the property that just dragged out and dragged out and dragged out. But I knew how to deal with these structural issues in quite a cost-effective manner. The issue is when they come up, pretty much anyone that doesn't know how to deal with this thing gets spooked massively.
Most people get put off, right?
Well, if you don't know how to fix it and fix it cost-effectively, it can be $80,000 to $100,000 fix, right? And so that was the card that I played. When this thing came back through and Morgs goes, oh shit, this thing's come back on the market. I called the agent, spoke to the agent. And man, I think I offered 180, 190K or something for this thing.
Hold on.
Yeah.
310.
Yeah.
Fell over.
Yeah.
And you offered it 180?
Yeah.
That is insane.
It was insane.
That's awesome.
But there's structural issues, right?
Yes.
Which obviously we had to factor in. And this is where a lot of people, they hear and they'll hear the numbers on this deal. And this deal is a machine, right? But they'll hear the numbers on the deal and like, oh, I only wanted to buy that. And I guarantee you, there'd be 80% of our clients wouldn't want to touch it. And probably I wouldn't give it to 80% of our clients, because 80 to 90% of our clients, because there's structural issues, big structural issues. Like Morgs backed me on this and trusted me that I knew what we could fix it at, because we had fixed similar projects and we'd bought similar projects that had been fixed in a similar way, but it wasn't widely known of how to fix this thing cost effectively. Anyway, after a lot of backwards and forwards, boom, 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 going around everywhere, we ended up securing it for, and we secured it for 207, and then I go to Morgs, let's just submit a 200 flat. And the agent and the seller missed it, and they signed off on it at 200K flat. So it was just ridiculous what we picked this deal up for.
So 310 And we got it for 200.
200, yeah.
What a way to start.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
We also knew the structural component of this thing was going to be circa 25 to 30K at some point.
Still.
So yeah, man, like still, it was obviously still a significant discount, but we had to factor that plus a little maintenance works that would come off the back of it. So we're factoring in about 30, probably worst case 40K. We knew we had post those works at least like 60, 70K in the deal. You know, it was a good deal.
So were you able to rent it straight away, or was like
I just had to, I think I might have done a paint or floors. It was one or the other. One of them had already
Paint
been
and carpets.
done.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, it was just carpets. It had been painted a year before when they tried to sell it.
Yeah.
But it was all this shit had happened.
Yeah, and I think I rented it pretty much straight away. I think it was first leased at $380 a week.
Okay, so we got it for 200 to 380, and interest rates back then were nothing. So
2.5%.
Yeah, my interest rate's still current. I think I must have locked it for a little bit longer. I think it's at 2.7.
Yeah.
So you've started off straight out of the gate with an absolute belter.
Yeah,
This
it
is,
was-
I mean,
it was
you've
a
got to be
great
happy
deal.
with that, right?
But talk us about so this is the very first property.
Yeah.
And we were in a trip at the time. I was scouting WA. We had been in WA for probably
Yeah.
6 months at the time. This was early 21 and we'd been in there since late 2020. We were over there on a scouting trip. We did a week scouting and then we drove down to Esperance and did like a bit of a road trip back and through. But this is when that deal was going through and we had big issues on the funding.
Yeah.
And it had been approved. And we went.
Well, I did a cash.
We did
unconditional
cash.
contract.
Yeah, we did cash contract.
For my first deal with no
Really trusted me on
pre-approval.
this one.
Just explain to people
Yeah.
that are listening, what is a cash contract?
No finance.
So
In New South Wales, that's quite common, right? No finance clause. But
you're actually agreeing, you're agreeing to buy the property without getting out on a finance clause.
Yeah, no
right?
finance clause.
So you are still getting finance for
Yeah.
it, but you're just not having that condition in the contract to pull out.
And there was no building and pest either. So it was an unconditional contract.
Yeah, it was an unconditional contract,
Unconditional.
which is probably why we did get it through all good on the 200K.
So I don't want people to get confused thinking you've paid cash for the whole deal.
No. Cash contract is no conditions.
Yes.
So it's a conditionless contract.
As far as the seller and the agent, I guess, care, it's as good as cash because there's no way of getting out of it.
Yeah.
You're locked in.
But
You're locked in.
for our side, I still needed to get finance approval for it.
So you knew you would get finance for it.
I was told I would be fine.
The broker we were using at the time, was very confident in it, and it was no issues at all. And like, also making decent money. Cost was very, very low. She was servicing. I think she had a pre-approval for $500K or something.
Okay.
So $200,000 purchase shouldn't have been an issue. There were issues with the bank, and then the bank changed policy, and I can't even remember exactly the reason.
Because the house was so cheap, they flagged the house as a high risk.
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
they were like, it doesn't like it's so
Something
cheap. There's
that was
something
like
wrong with
wrong.
it.
Yeah, what's
which
that?
I mean, there was a
There
little bit of
was.
stuff wrong with it. So they cut the funding. So then we went through our direct banker that we were working with, and I had to go into like a CBA down in Esperance, so now my BSB, the branch is Esperance.
Because you set up the bank account there because we had to swap everything like overnight. It was crazy. We were leaving Esperance that morning, so she's gone into the branch, set up the account, and then we'll drive into
Bunbury
No, it
or
wasn't Bunbury. It
Albany
was
or something.
Albany. We're driving, and then we had to drive straight to the Albany branch. Like we drove to Albany, which was like 5 hours. And then the next morning we walked in and they're like, who are you guys? Because like the highest level of credit at CBA is like send them direct loan docs. You have to get these guys, like you have to get someone in to witness it. There's like.
You feel so cool though. You're like, my first property and everyone's like, who does she work with?
Yeah,
Wow.
literally like, who are these
See,
guys?
what I'm hearing here, I mean, this is an incredible deal. And for a lot of people, you would be put off by certain things. But because you had obviously a calming influence and the experience from you, you were able to capitalize on a really good opportunity. So it's about, for people listening out there, you'd really need to surround yourself with people who know what they're doing. I mean, that to me, I mean, I wouldn't be able to do this on my own. I don't know if you were on, like, I mean, that's a great thing. You obviously did the deal and you got the finance, but the support network of having the right people and the right team made it get through.
Yeah, I wouldn't have dared to go near something like that. I wouldn't even have known how to find something or understand something like that without Sam and his guidance.
Or known how to, I guess, negotiate and be able to know the fix,
which is normal because none of the deals that I would have done I wouldn't have done them either if it wasn't for your influence either. You told me to buy a property that the guy basically did everything wrong.
Yeah.
And he couldn't even sell it because he had knocked out staircases and built things that he shouldn't have. And I'm like, all right, dude, if you think so, I'll back you. If you think this is a good deal. So this
and
is
now
not,
it yields like 10% and made you 300 grand in 2 years.
one of the best deals you've ever done. So that's awesome, Morg. So how did that feel like going through that process for your first deal? I mean, you faced a lot of obstacles. What was that feeling like?
It was a lot of like up and down of like the finance got cut and then I got it back and then like we did the work to it. I didn't run it as a first like
First time owner's grant.
yeah, I didn't have it as anything like that. I just put it straight through as an investment so I could get it rented straight away. But I think like within maybe a week or two from settlement, it leased out, and I think it was 9 point something.
Yeah, I mean, 200K purchase and getting 380 a week rent, that's almost 10% yield.
And so when did you do the actual works of this?
I feel like it was within the first week of settlement, they had everything sorted and they had it leased.
We got early access.
Not the structural work.
Yeah, I was
though.
going to say structurally.
We have it, so
structural work, essentially, that comes into the piece a little bit later on, right? So we do an equity release for another purchase, and then further down the line, we do an equity release to actually rectify the issues of the home. So it was kind of perfect. So like the money we made on the way into the deal funded us into another one, and then fixed all the issues on the property as well.
All right, so just to recap, so first property, we bought it at 200. It's renting for
380. Now it actually rents for 410 per week.
Amazing. And even that's a little bit under. That should be 450 plus.
And now we're in the game. So if we were to move from the first to the second, at what point? Because you've already got equity in there.
And the value of that right now as well, like that was a 21 purchase. The value of that right now, rectified, is a high 400s home.
That is in 2 years.
In 2 years, yeah.
That is an absolute belter.
Yeah,
that just goes to show you when people say, "How do you do?" Well, this is
when people talk about the argument of time in the market versus timing the market.
Timing.
Do we want to see the real winner with that one?
That is that's probably taken the cake. So how quickly what do we do next after that? How did we go from 1 to 2? I
started working more in WA as one of our like key areas that we were buying in.
As a buyer's agent.
Yep. And this property came through and the agent was telling me like, this is a really good buy. It needs a bit of work. It was pretty gross. I think he said it needed maybe 20 grand reno, which I think for my second one, I probably wasn't thinking I was going to buy something that needed work. But it was 230,000.
I think the cool thing, I'll just jump back one step first, is like when the opportunity came through, you hadn't even gone through the equity release yet.
No.
So what we did was like, it was a 20 grand reno. And at the time, Morgs hadn't saved that much more because she wasn't making a huge amount, right? Like she was doing okay, but
and
she wasn't
used all
making
your capital in the first deal, right?
Yeah. So like, it's kind of like back to square one, maybe had another 10 grand in the bank sort of thing, like didn't have that much. And I was like, oh shit, okay, well, before I pull the trigger on this thing, we'll go get this thing revaled, the first property, see how much equity we've got. What did the first val come in at?
I think it could have been like 380.
Was it 380? No, I don't think it was that high. Was it that high? 330, 350 comes to mind for me.
Maybe.
Even still, we've paid 200.
Big. Yeah, sorry,
even
I probably should have got those numbers right.
Like, but even still, anything
75% gain.
So there's a heap of equity to use there, right?
Yeah.
Straight away. So
yeah, it was a big hit I was able to get out of the first one. I think from memory I was able to pull out about 70,000 from it. Which was more than enough to get into the second deal. And
the big thing on this as well was we needed speed on this one. So what we did from memory is we didn't pull it all the way back up to 88%. So normally we're a big advocate of 88%, especially when you're starting out. The issue with 88% or anything over 80s is you go into LMI territory. So we needed speed to know that we could pull this thing out and get it in the bank before settlement of the second deal. So essentially what we did was we pulled the equity back up to a 70%, to an 80% LVR, which was around about that 70K, which from memory means it would have been valued probably in those lower 300s rather than the high. So we've kind of pulled it back out at that, and we knew 70K was more than enough to buy this next deal at 88% LVR, and then have the 20K in reno funds in the budget there to knock it over.
Which is a really good point for people listening to that. I mean, you had a ton of equity, right? Mm-hmm. So for people listening, you didn't go up to 88% because it doesn't make sense to go up to 88% again, would it?
Yes.
When you've got that much equity.
It actually does. So for most people it does, but for in this scenario, the timing of what we needed it quickly.
We don't want to complicate the loan with the bank, right?
But a lot of the time, right, if you buy it at 88% LVR, there's nothing wrong with refining it back up to 88 because if you've already paid the LMI, you normally pay a top-up amount. Now this was with CBA.
Okay. Yep.
Top-up amount's normally between $1,000 to $1,200 as a basic LMI top-up equity release.
Yep.
So it actually makes complete sense. If you had, 40, 50, 60K to pull out, it makes complete sense to pull that out, as a whole amount, only pay that little bit of LMI top up and have that in the bank for a full deal. And I think it's a really important thing for a lot of people starting out. One thing I'll say on that as well, you guys got to remember too, the market was moving rapidly in 2021. So it was an excellent purchase, but the market was also pumping. And when I say pumping, in 2021, Ipswich would have done about 30% growth. Right, I'm not kidding. Like 30%, deal, and 30% on a 300k asset is 100,000. Right, in the first year, and so this is where it was an exceptional purchase. There was a lot of money in it, but the market was also moving rapidly, which we took the advantage of, stripped capital, and kept moving.
Yes. So you found the WA property, is that right?
Yeah, it was through one of my really close agents.
So that's 2 from 2. You, Sam, 0.
Come on, mate.
I'm just keeping score here, just for people
I'm going to
listening.
slap you. You're reachable. Oh, you're lucky you got a boom arm in the way. I got to avoid.
I'm keeping score here for everyone listening. Morgan 2, Sam 0.
Jimmy negative 14.
So
age.
let's run through that deal just from the numbers, can you, Morgs?
So we bought it for 230. It needed about 20 grand reno, but it also was a property that had future granny flat potential as well. So I kind of was buying it with that in mind, but also as is, it was a great buy. Probably at the time it was worth maybe 260, 270.
Okay. But obviously with the renovation, putting the money in for the renovation, give it a nice cosmetic facelift, it allowed it to val up higher than a standard sort of investment.
Yeah, so it's actually a really weird way that this one works. So just settled number 2, and then the same agent that I bought number 2 from brings me another property in similar area.
It's a suburb next door, right?
Yeah, suburb next door. And I think I'd been buying in WA for maybe like 3 months at that point, maybe even a little bit less, and like loved this area. Like I was so, compared to what I guess the other area
we invested in Queensland.
Yeah, it had a lot on offer, and I really liked the area. So when this property came to us, it was a 4x2, but it was basically a 5x2, and it was for 286. So we finished doing the renovations on number 2, and that property valued up really well. And I was able to pretty quickly pull out the money from number 2 to buy number 3, which I think...
If we jump into those numbers for a sec, we paid 230k for it. We put it.
This is number 2, right?
Yeah. Number 2.
Right.
So we've put around about 20. We've bought it for 230. We've put about 20k into reno. So we're in at 250.
Yeah.
The val came in at 311. So you've got a $61,000 equity uplift, which is awesome. That's about 25% equity uplift. That's massive. And this third deal has come through at a 286 purchase. And we're doing a dash again to try and get some cash out, right?
Yeah.
Because you fell in love with this deal.
Yeah. Even like the banker that we work with, every time I message him to say, I put a contract on another house, he'll be like, this is pretty standard for you, isn't it?
That's a pre-approval.
So you moved pretty quickly. Like I know we're going to go deeper in number 3, but from number 1 to number 3, just that momentum, what time frame are we looking at? I
think it might have been like 8 months from 1 to 3.
Kind of every 3 to 4 months. Because I think it was May 21, and then September 21, and then December 21.
Yeah.
You bought, that was 1, 2, 3?
Number 3 settled in December 21.
Okay.
So yeah, in probably 7 or 8 months, the 3 were done.
Yeah.
And
the cool thing about that one, what I loved was like, what I try and do a lot of the time is I'll try and find areas like again, go back to Nick Wilcox style deals where we're buying in 280, 290, $300,000. We can make 30K on the way into the deal, and it's a great growth area at the bottom of the cycles, good yields. And that's where this area was. So Morgs had bought a couple for clients in this suburb and in these surrounding suburbs that were very similar to this deal that we loved. You know, they're fantastic bread and butter deals. And then, yeah, man, like obviously she was getting a bit of FOMO of not getting. She wanted one herself, you know, so she was trying to knock this reno over and get moving.
I love it that you became like, and for people listening here, they might be thinking, well, you're a buyer's agent, it was easy, but the difference here is you were a market expert in that area. Like you knew like those values. The agent reached out to you. Yes, you're in the industry and doing that, but for people, if they're buying on their own and to take value out of this, there's no coincidence that the agent got in touch with you because you were there. You were nurturing the relationship. You created value, you created that relationship. So no wonder they presented the deal to you.
Yeah. And this deal was kind of like a gateway deal. The I think it was kind of like a mortgagee company that I was buying it from. And it was, if we can get this contract done within, it was like it had to be signed and back within like a few hours. He was picking up his kids from school and meeting this guy from the bank to show him how fast this buyer that he works with can move. It was kind of like a gateway to open it up for clients to be able to get access to these deals as well. So we were trying to get it done really, really fast, and that's why it kind of
And a lot
came
of clients
together.
won't sign a contract in 2 or 3 hours. You know what I mean?
No.
So I
Yeah.
was just like, that's when I saw it come through. Morgs is like, what do you reckon? I was like, just sign this
And
thing. Like,
and like no photos. Like I don't think I had any photos of the property. So it was just taking it as it is, which for a client, like they usually want a bit more, especially
Understandably.
at like it, it's almost 300K purchase. So yeah, it had to be done very, very quickly.
And it comes down to you guys knowing, obviously you knew the market, you knew the values. For listeners out there thinking you would jump on this very quickly without knowing all those details, that's actually quite challenging. So if you're out there, the more you know about the market and the more you are confident by investing, you can make these kind of decisions. If you're starting out and you're not really sure what you're doing, this can lead you into all sorts of problems, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So just for people to get context around this, your knowledge has just gone through the roof within that first 6 months. And obviously you've been working with Sammy.
Yeah.
These 3 deals, I mean, you went from no properties to 3 properties within 6 to 8 months. How was that? How was that? I mean, for you, within your own confidence, how did that feel?
It was pretty crazy. I think like thinking I'd get 1 property and then like when it was 2, I think 1 and 2 felt similar, or like getting into the first one was really exciting. And then 2 felt like, oh yeah, like it's the second one. And then for some reason 3 felt like really big because it was like, I don't know. I feel like there's people out there that have 1 and 2 and 3 just felt like that
definitely
next
a milestone. It's
Yeah,
always
it just
always
felt-
run out.
What is it? 95% of people only ever have 2.
1 or 2 properties. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the third one was really exciting, and I think in such a short time frame as well. I was pretty excited to have that one settled, and it was the other property was a 3x1, and this was a 5x2. So I was pretty excited of how big it was as well, and it had some really nice features to the.
It was kind of
to
a
the
cool
house
one
as
too,
well.
because like all the others that she'd bought, that we knew they had issues. You know, first time structural issues, and it needed it needed work, or even initially, and then needed work. We knew big works were coming. The second one was like a big renovator. We knew we had to put a fair bit into it, and then the third one, which was funny, was just like it was a nice deal. So I think Morgan
Thank
liked
God.
it. Yeah,
Nothing to
finally a clean
a
deal.
little simpler.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
I
So
think I was excited about
We
that.
bought it for 286. What was it rented for?
I think it first rented for maybe 410 or 420.
I mean, that's insane.
Great yield.
Yeah, and they've just now gone to the tenant the rent's actually gone up a couple times, and they've just proposed 500 a week to the tenant. So
And 500 a week is realistic rent on that deal.
yeah,
And we're at 286, folks.
and they've been good tenants, so it's probably maybe market rent might be 530.
Yeah.
But
The cool thing is as well, we're probably say 18 months on from that purchase. It's settled in December 21. We're early mid, whatever the hell we are now in terms of 23. That would now also be worth probably in the low 400s at least, low 400,000s at least in terms of purchase price.
So what's that?
sale price.
35,
That's
40,
50%. 50%, yeah.
50%. And when you, just bringing it back to you, Sammy, you talk about velocity of money.
Yes.
This is a classic
Oh,
example
mate.
from when I'm listening to
Mate.
your story, Morgs. The obviously the recycle of equity and using equity to get into more deals and the uplifts that you've had on each of these. If anyone's out there thinking there's no money to be made on sub $300,000 purchase, this scenario.
Esther Louise in the old Q&A for
Esther, I hope you're listening
Q&A
to
number
this.
4. This is the prime
Isn't it?
example of money to be made on sub $300,000 deals.
The velocity of money and your speed to get into multiple deals and the value you've created, you were earning $35,000 to $40,000 per annum, and in those 3 deals, the value increase of all of those is at least $100,000 on each deal, or around that. Let's just say that's $300,000. Based on earning $40,000 a year, you're nearly 7 to 10 years
yeah.
to make that kind of money. That is that just blows my mind.
It's insane. Like the power of like the compounding growth and what you can really do with property. It doesn't matter what wage you're on or what you're doing. Like realistically, when you get out there and you make those first couple of purchases and you strip equity and you put it into something else, it's like the examples that we talk about where we talk about the velocity of money and people being like, oh, I'm not going to do anything, or I'm going to sit on the sidelines for a while. And it's like, oh, I'll wait till interest rates come back down. It's like we're talking about. You can go buy one, strip equity in 6-9 months, and then put it into another deal, and then allow that to compound and grow. It's like Morgs has done right here. It literally explodes. Like you look at the first deal, she's up to $250,000 probably more on that. The second deal, she'd be up in current today's dollars, you'd be up 120,000. She'd be up 50%. Third deal, up 50%, up another 140, 150K. You know what I mean?
$500,000.
Half a mil in this. And at this point, this is in terms of right now, we're 2 years since the first purchase. Not even 2 years since the first purchase. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that power of the compounding effect is insane.
All right, before we move to number 4, Morgs, you found that property number 3 on your
Yes,
own?
I did.
So that's 2 to 1. 2 to 1 at the moment. 2 to 1.
Is this like your old soccer days? Are you going to get on the board at some point?
Are you going to
he
restyle your hair?
stumped
Are you
him.
going to restyle your hair? I'm just sorry. I just looked at your
Folks,
hair. Like, what's going on?
That was not a glitch in the system. He literally stalled and we stumped him.
I just looked at him
You're
and I was
out.
like, wow.
Umpire's put his finger up.
I was got one thing to say, listeners. I hope you're watching this. What is it?
So we've got 3 cracking deals and now we're moving on to number 4.
Yes. So I think number 4, I put a contract on around April. I think it was around April 2022.
So we're talking 4 months from...
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I think is interesting on this one is we went through a time where we were very aggressive, very aggressively buying properties for clients that were, say, like $200,000-$300,000, $200,000 to $300,000 and $300,000 to $400,000 high cash flow style deals, right? Manufactured cash flow deals like we've done in your own portfolio and what we did there. And it was at a time where Morgs wasn't able to purchase in that period, right? And prices went on such a ridiculous run. Like, it was similar to like Ipswich doing 30% a year. A lot of these areas in Brizzy and around Brizzy were doing those similar sort of growth rates. And so it kind of, I remember Morgs was a little bit upset because she didn't get to get one of those. Yeah, well, she didn't get to get one of those deals. The market had moved beyond her by the time she was ready to actually buy one. And I know she was a little upset about it. So there was this period of time where like we had this opportunity where a sale had kind of fallen through and then a few different things had happened and then an opportunity presented itself once again of a really good buy in that market that we had previously kind of missed out on. And I'll let you run with it, Morgs.
So I got this property through my one again.
We're going a clean...
That's 3-1. That's 3-1. Would you like to see the email communication on the negotiations of the first deal?
We are going a clean sweep. You're getting a clean sheet in a bad way. Anyway.
So it got sent to me as like a off-market mail out. And it was priced really, really well. It had no internal photos. So there was an open home in the afternoon and we had moved up. Well, I think we were living up here by then. Yes. Yeah.
When was this? Oh, yeah, it was early 22.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we actually were living in Queensland. So I decided I would go through the open home. At that point, I wasn't sure if I was what I was looking at it for, if it was a client. It was a good buy either way. So went through the open home and could see a lot of potential in the property. It suited for granny flats and it was a high set with underneath had actually already been kind of built out.
Right. That's awesome.
Just pretty like, yeah. So it had tenants in place that were in place. I think this is in April. Their lease was until November at $270 per week.
Significantly below market.
Yeah, really, really low. They'd been there for 18 years.
Yeah, it was a shit old house. It had been super dilapidated. They'd been there for 18 years, and they just they lived in squalor. You know what I mean? Like, this thing was dirty. It was dirty. It was unkempt. It needed a full reno.
Yeah, it was very run down.
For people listening to this, $270 per week. Some people would think straight off the bat, nah, the rent is crap. I'm not going to buy it, without thinking
of what's potential,
what the potential is. So that is an absolute nugget there.
I think it's really key. It always is super key looking for the opportunities and the potential and what can we actually do with this deal or that deal.
And interest rates I think had started going up by then as well.
Maybe just started.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of chatter about it. You know, I think we'll one rise in, and then they were talking. A lot more's coming. Yes. A lot more's coming. So people.
So there's a bit of fear in the market, which was a great opportunity to do a deal.
Yeah. So I definitely wasn't at the time looking at it for me because I went through it on my own, which I hadn't been physically through a property in so long. Like I think when I got there, I was like, I don't really know what I'm looking for. It's been so long since I've walked through a property.
Because borders have been shut, right? Yeah. We're stuck in New South Wales. We couldn't get into state.
Yeah. So I went through it and pretty much knew upstairs, downstairs, full reno, but it had, I remember going through it and working out how much access was down one of the sides of the house to get the granny flat there. And then realizing after that Like, I think I went home to Sam and showed him, and he's like, why are you going down that side? You'd be going down the other side. Like, it'd been so long since I'd kind of done that. And it was
They
one
call
of
me
those.
the granny whisperer.
You are.
The granny whisperer.
The only
Very good
thing he
at
helped
talking.
with.
He knows a lot of grannies.
The only thing. Fucking hell. I was going to leave. Fuck you both.
So it was on one of those open negotiation websites, which I hate. Like, they're the worst, most emotional things because you can see everyone putting in offers, and I don't know if you can actually you can't see what other people's offers are, but it just tells you if you're the highest bid. And there was quite a few people bidding on this property. And we had gone away to Noosa for the weekend.
Was it the Easter long weekend? Because it was in April.
I don't know if it was Easter,
Okay.
but it was a long weekend. It was a long
yeah.
weekend.
Yeah,
And I remember we were on the beach, and I had upped my offer a couple times. I ran the numbers on what it would work at, and then knew where I was going. And I think at this point, I put in like a 380 offer. And then I got a notification, like I wanted this property, client or myself, whatever. I wanted to get it. And I got a notification, and I read it as the
Auction has ended.
The auction's ended. And like, I got really, really upset. And then the agent called me, and I was like, oh, like, what did it go for? Like, I was really, really sad on the phone. And I said, I saw like it's finished. So I'm guessing I didn't get it. He's like, oh no, I've just turned off, I've just stopped the bid. It's not, the result isn't out yet. And then I think he might've said, like, is that your best and final? And I had felt, I'd now emotionally attached to this house, and I'd felt what it was going to feel like to lose it. So I said, put another like $3,000 on there. I didn't know if I was the highest bid or what. And then he called me back after, and he's like, guess what? You got it. And yeah.
And I think you were super stoked with that.
I was so excited.
That was a period where, she'd had these couple of years where she'd missed out on it, and we never thought we were going to, like, Morg said she was never going to get one of those deals.
On a granny deal. Is that what
On a
we're
granny
talking?
deal,
Yeah.
yeah.
and
in
a high
Southeast
set
Queensland.
that I could add a lot of value to, and I'd seen
Because that's what you and I have made a lot of money on those deals.
Can I say though, just listening to this story, right? When we talk about leveling up and we talk about people changing your view of what you expect, from your first deal, you were thinking about doing one deal. Now you're 3 deals in, and you've leveled up to the point where you're like, you know what? I need to get this deal. Like, your whole outlook. Mm-hmm. So for people out there, this changes really quickly. That momentum, don't underestimate the power of that momentum. That's what I love. Because your whole outlook, and then what you're attracting, and your conversations, and the people you spend, and the agents that you're chatting to, and your ability to negotiate, that is powerful. I love that. And that's a reflection of what you've done.
I mean,
it's awesome.
you look at the timeline as well. Like, we're talking about settling this thing in April bloody 22, and she's bought the first one in May 21. Like, it's a sub 12-month time frame of buying 4 properties from a standing start. Like, that's just insane. Because, like, it's not only like the fact she made money on deals on the way in, and then the market's kept doing. This is what we always talk about. You buy in the right market, it keeps doing the heavy lifting. You make your equity on the way in, it keeps lifting. But the simple fact of, like, she also didn't stop. You know what I mean? She kept moving and kept pushing it and yeah, man, pushing the needle and moving forward. And I think like that's the game changer when you look at that and the accumulation. And now you look at like the value, like we said before, like the first 3 deals in current today's terms, she got $500,000 that. The last one, she'd probably have another, you'd probably have another 120, 150 in that, number 4 that we're on right now. There'd be 120, 150, even before the renos are done. There's just so much value, because of that accumulation. That's why I talk about that compounding effect. And like, people ask me, how many should I look to do? Or like, I'm not sure I want to do that. I'd maybe just do 1 deal a year. And it's like, 1 deal a year is fine, right? If you just want to go conservative, but the compounding effect of building it like this, literally 2 years in and $500,000 just on those first 3, let alone the last couple that we're getting to as well. Insane.
It might seem uncomfortable at the moment, but when you have that 2-year time period and you look back and you're going, oh my God.
Trust the process.
Yeah.
It's all about leveling up.
And you've mentioned a few times that you got emotionally attached. Like it's funny how, and you know property extremely well, obviously. But it's very easy to get caught up in that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if people listening, you can get really emotional about things and you get attached. So how do you separate that and just really keep the numbers at the forefront of your mind?
For myself or
for
for
you.
clients?
Well, for you personally. I mean, clients, it's all about the numbers and you get that. But for yourself, how did you...
I think as much as like there was emotion involved, I also knew what this property was worth and like the potential of it. So I think it was more emotion because I knew like
the value upside.
like the value of it and like having a granny side and knowing the renovation potential. I think at that time we'd had a client who got like $650 or $700 a week rent on their on their renovated high set.
It was this goose.
Was it?
Yeah, it was this goose. But there was some precedents starting to come in for
Yeah, it was really
the
exciting.
ability, and it was in the same suburb.
Does that mean I'm no longer a silver dog? I'm a goose now? Is it?
You're a silver
Duck,
goose.
duck, 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 goose.
Silver goose. No one wants a silver goose.
My question to you is, do you ever buy properties when you're not on holiday? Because you seem to be every deal.
Doesn't
I
seem
was in
like
the
it.
middle of Thailand and
What are you doing in Thailand?
you're literally, you're in Bunbury, you're in Esperance. This one we're in Noosa. I can't wait to see what the next one brings. All right, so
The big thing as well.
The actual crazy thing is we never take holidays. You know what I mean?
but the
never
deals
take
come
holidays.
up. The deals, but
That's
it
it.
just shows that you need to act quickly, right?
Yeah, it was all of these properties have been very much about speed. Number 4 was probably not challenging, but the deposit for number 4, I was expecting number 3 to at that point val up. Because I knew the market, it was a market that I was buying in every day. I knew what my property was worth.
And it had been going on a great run, a
Yeah.
significant run.
Yeah, I was buying properties very, very similar, knowing that this is what they're worth, this is what I'm buying them for. But the bank just does not like that property. It wouldn't val up. So I sent what my estimations were to the banker to run the numbers, and it was just not coming in with anything at all in it, which can happen. I think that's something that is just
It does happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
and you know what? It leads back into the properties that we're buying and diversifying, because you put all your eggs into one basket and you buy a property that you get a bad val. What do? You're stuck.
But I think the other side of things as well is people have to be understanding of the fact that this happens. You know what I mean? It has happened within my portfolio where I've gone to
Me
pull
too.
equity out of deals and I just can't seem to get it to val up. Morgs has had this thing now for 18 months. It would be worth literally 50% more than what she paid. Man, there was a solid 12, 15 months there where she'd val it every 3 months and it would just keep coming in at purchase price, or 5, 10, 15 grand more for literally nearly 18 months.
Yeah.
This thing now is worth $150,000 more. And it wasn't until a couple of weeks ago you got this thing
Yeah.
valed up and what had come in at 360 or 380 or something.
yeah, still really, really low for what
Yeah.
I
What
know
did it
it's
come in
worth.
at?
I think it was 360 or 354 or
Yeah, so it's literally still coming in 60, 70K under.
Which if I could buy this now for 350,
Yeah, buy 10 of them.
Yeah, they'd be great deals.
Yeah. So, but it's funny, and I think it's a great lesson for people to learn that it's not all, that first one, ridiculous val. Second one, ridiculous val. Third one, bang, got stalled, got
Yeah.
stopped. You know what I mean? Couldn't pull any additional equity out of it.
Yeah.
So,
So I had been saving as well over the last 6 months. And I think because I got into the properties I kind of went from one extreme to another of not really having money to then doing properties and being a successful buyer's agent. I still lived the same way I was living when I was on 40 grand a year. So I was just saving everything I, earned. And I also, I didn't have quite enough to settle this one. I think I may have at an 88%, might have had enough to settle into it. But I think I decided to do 80%, as when he ran the val on number 3 and it didn't come in, he said you actually have more in the first property that you can pull out. So then we actually tapped into number 1 a second time.
Great. So we recircled back in.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Double dip.
Which it's probably been about, I think I did the second one in September, or maybe pulled that money out around then. So it had probably been 6 months since I had tapped into it the last time. And
Great.
Queensland was still running pretty well at this point. So I was able to pull out a bit more out of number 1, which got me I did an 80% on this one, as it's something that I'm looking that I'll always hold.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And this, so we're completing this number 4 property, right? And so the strategy along the way here, were you obviously you do it with every client. And
Strategize
obviously-
portfolio.
were you
Yeah.
strategizing? Were you going back and forth saying, look, we need a granny deal now. We need a bread and butter.
yeah, the idea was to start to plug in some cash flow because obviously within a buyer's agent's role, it's the same as a sales agent's role, or most people that are in commission, you're on lower bases and higher comms when you start doing deals. And obviously at this point in time, Morgs was literally in only her first financial year of a com situation, a com bonus sort of pay. Yep. So she was very much nearing those serviceability caps. So that's when I was saying to her, look, whether it's WA, whether it's Queensland, whether it's the New South Wales market, we need it. The next deal we put in needs to be a nice cash flow deal. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's where, like, because we knew we had levers on additional properties at the start that we could pull potentially as well for that play as well. But I was like, I think it's worthwhile getting one more cash flow deal in now, executing it, and then running through that process. And I think that's where, like, this is the interesting year, like, because it was actually 12 months of heavy accumulation, and then you almost had a year off because we went back through and started executing deals. So we'd pulled additional capital out. We went back, property number one, we fixed the structural works and the other things that came through with it.
Done.
It was just circa about 30 grand's worth of work, I think, in total on that one. Number two, we had done the works on. Number three, we weren't able to get equity out. And then number four, which obviously was the cash flow deal, we hooked straight in and banged straight into that granny flat deal at the time. And we got that secondary dwelling built almost ASAP. Awesome. And then everything kind of going through with the reno as well, getting it all booked in, scheduled in, paid for and everything. So like there was just a process of 12 months off from the game of accumulation to then go back and execute the portfolio.
And sometimes you need that, right?
100%.
I noticed when I did that renovation on my property in Queensland and built in underneath, I wasn't able to accumulate as many deals because that took a decent amount of capital.
I've done it before where I'll take 6 months off and just go bang out 4, 5, 6 granny flats in one hit and go smash them all over, pull the capital back out and then go accumulate. The next 6 months I'll accumulate again. But I take 6 months off executing on the portfolio first before I do it.
But the key point is understanding when to pull the lever to do that, right? That's a really important point. So you guys obviously strategize to know, okay, we need to do this now.
Yeah.
And that will allow us then to go again.
Yeah, 100%.
Which leads us into number 5.
Number 5, which has just settled.
So congratulations.
About a year, almost a year between the two. It was a regional deal, a big corner block with granny potential as well, which is exciting. We got that one for just under 270. And it actually leased just before settlement at 370 a week. So a great return, and a really, really nice granny flat site as well. I think that's
nice discount on the way in.
Yeah,
nice granny site. Probably worth close to 300, probably 300-ish, with that really good, obviously dual lock potential to drive again additional cash flows.
Yeah.
So 5 properties. I mean, we did 4 within 12 months, and then we've done that one. So we've done essentially 5 properties within a period of 2 years, which is phenomenal from a standing start as well. So hats off to you, Morgs. That is phenomenal, right? My question to you though, Sammy boy.
Jimmy.
When you're looking at these kind of deals, I know it's got granny flat potential, but could this essentially be for people listening?
Yeah.
Could it just be a bread and butter deal that people keep as a bread and butter deal in their portfolio and have the upside of doing this cash flow strategy down the track?
Potentially. So it always depends on like what you need in the portfolio. So like for some people, they might buy that and sit on that for a while. What we typically recommend though is like 90% of the time, you go buy a cash flow deal, you normally will pay intrinsically more for that property because it has bigger land, 800 square meter plus corner block. You know, those things normally you won't get as big a discount on a deal like that because of the intrinsic value. So normally, if you're still in the accumulation phase of the portfolio and the compound, the building phase of the portfolio, you would be better off to focus on a direct bread and butter style deals that you can make more of a margin on and not have that lever to pull than make less of a margin and have the lever to pull. That's my personal opinion. I would prefer to build it like that. And then when you're ready to execute on, say, the cash flow deals, you acquire the site for that at the time.
And do it.
You can always pick them up. And man, I've got clients. It's actually one of our favorite strategies that we'll do with clients that might have, bubs might be on the horizon in 2 years, like a game plan, right? So we'll work a strategy. I actually work this strategy quite a lot with clients. They'll have a certain amount of capital they've got to start with. And the idea is before they're going to take time off for the baby coming through and an extra dependent and potentially the wife taking some time off work, what they'll do is they might pick up, 2 or 4 deals, depending on the strategy. They might pick up 2 or 4 deals before they're going to take that time off. And then they'll start the builds before they take the time off. So the execution phase is while the wife
On
is off
maternity
work.
leave. Yeah,
So
smart.
then they've still got things going on, because a lot of the time, like you said before, it can take you out of the game for 6 or 12 months. So if you pick the deals up, especially 4 is that key sort of window when people are 2 years away. Okay, do 1 every 6 months, and then when they get to the back end, they know they got the baby coming in. Let's say that the lady's already pregnant. They go get the construction loans, and then they go execute during that time, and then the portfolio's still ticking over, doing its thing while they're enjoying the time. So it's a great strategy on that front.
Now, you did a clean sweep on Sam, 4 zip up to this last one. Did you...
Jimmy, I know you're 3001 now, right? Your
I was
birthday
actually
recently.
talking to...
I don't care. Because your birthday was recently, right? So you're 3001. Did they not teach you maths all the way back then? I know it was a few thousand years ago, but they teach you maths because by the reckoning of the way I count, it was 3-1, which is a great victory. It's a big victory.
We'll give you one.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to give him a little feed, give him a little burley to keep him.
Mate, silver dog, you're feeding on corpses, mate.
3-1, but the last deal was...
The last deal was an APS deal.
Okay.
Off the regional expert within the biz, a regional expert,
Jake the Snake?
young Jakey, Jake the Mus, Jake the Snake.
Well done. I mean, how does that feel for you right now where you're at with 5 properties? And you're 26?
Yep.
Your memory's going on the old board.
26, 5 properties within 20. I mean, that in itself is just phenomenal. I had 1 property by I was 39. So when you think about that and the compound effect of that, has that sunk in? I know you got other ambitions and stuff, but
yeah, it's I think number 5 was another like 3 and then 5 were both felt really big. I think now having 5 and just that I think that's just like a really exciting thing to have 5 properties now. I'm glad I had the year kind of just working on the portfolio and like getting everything set up as well. And I feel like now I'm ready to get back into like another big year of accumulation.
it's easy for you to say.
Accumulation.
Can I say one thing as well? My biggest takeaway from this story, right? There's a lot of different things you can take away from it, but I know a lot of people, they make the win on the first deal. What's the first thing they do?
Take it easy.
They don't take it easy. They go buy a car. Oh, man, I was made 70 grand. Let's go buy myself a new Merc, a new Beamer, a new whatever, new Raptor. Like a lot of people will go out and they'll go spend it on that, or they'll go buy a new car for 50 and then go travel for 20, you know, and they shoot themselves in the foot. They've just killed themselves for what the hard work and the win that they've made. What I really take out of this, the thing that I see is super inspiring, is like Morgs has had all these opportunities along the way. You know, and like I said from the start, she doesn't get handouts from me, right? So it's not like I've gone and bought her a really nice car that she gets to drive in now. She still drives.
You bought yourself 2 and me 0.
Is that 2-0? That's 2-0. Hey, that's 3-all. 3-1. Bang, 3-all. I'll take that. Moving on. And so, like, what I'm talking about here is like there's periods of sacrifice where she's still driving that old. It's not a bad car. It's an old RAV4. You know, it's an old SUV, 4-wheel drive looking thing, but she hates it. Like she's hated it for the last year or whatever. She liked it when she was younger, but she's over it now.
The visor like hits you in the face. It lost its like flexibility. So when you drive, you have to like duck under it.
But it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's sacrifice, and it's like she could have stopped and not bought 4, not bought 3, not bought 5, whatever. At any of these points, literally at number 1, she could have made the decision, which a lot of, you would have been 23 when you bought, 23, 24 when you bought that first property. A lot of people would make that decision and it's an error. And instead of making that error in judgment, instead she's continued to accumulate. She's built this beast of a portfolio. Now she's got options. She can pick and choose with different things that she could do. If she wants to go buy a car because she's already got a mad portfolio behind her. But it's like the sacrifice. And I know Morgs very well too. She does not rocking around in, designer bags and jewelry and clothes and all the rest of it. She's literally sunk it all in here. And yeah, she's 26 now with a 5 property portfolio, multiple,
What are the numbers total?
Well.
What do we think the total val of that would be, you reckon?
Oh, I'd have to work it out quickly. Go on, you guys keep talking. Okay. I'll work it out.
Because what I wanted to ask you, Morgs, is how has that changed, like your relationship with the people around you? Like, say your family. I know your brother has been inspired now from following your story, which I think is awesome. So you've been the spark to him. You've, you obviously Michelle, your mother, she works in the business too, and she does an awesome job helping our clients. But you've been the match that has sparked and created that momentum at a very young age, may I say, very wise beyond your years, to your family. So how has that changed your interactions with them?
I mean, they're all like extremely proud, and I think also really, really happy that I met someone like Sam who was able to show me this, I guess, another side to life as well, and open up so many possibilities. And I think it's like my brother is 23, so like he's in a really good age to start this as well. And it's been really exciting to see him change his perspective of wanting to get, like, he looks up to Sam a lot and looks up to what I'm doing and wants to be a part of it. But then there's all his friends as well, and you know they all have good jobs and earn good money and don't do too much with it. So I think it's really exciting to know that it's also like affecting them in a positive way.
Because we talk about that circle of influence.
Always, man. This is going to go through my head as well.
Isn't this just the ultimate example for people listening? I mean, I feel the goosebump moment because it's just inspiring. And then I think to myself, like, it's just so awesome what you're doing for the people around you. And imagine, like, we always talk about opportunity cost. Imagine you're still doing your real estate thing, and hats off to all the real estate agents out there. But that momentum, I don't think that would have translated into your brother doing this, and it wouldn't have changed your demeanor and the momentum that you've created, and your mother getting her involved. And I think it's just that is the juice of what we do, right?
And when you change those people around you perspective, they literally change, and then they're kind of projecting that positive energy back on you and talking about property and talking about this and that, and they're like,
changes the conversation,
man, massively. And that's what changes the game and the outlook for you. It literally pushes you further and further.
It changes your life.
100%, man.
That's why we're doing this, to change your life for the better.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's honestly, it's inspiring shit.
I think like my brother has just sold his car to get a deposit to buy his first property with us. So
there's no way he would have done that if you weren't doing what you were doing. There is a 23-year-old young strapping dude,
and he loves
the Gold Coast
as well.
There is no way he would be doing that.
No.
He's probably heard Sammy bag him out about holding a car for 50 grand. He's too embarrassed to rock up.
No, I think it's good.
So let's, before we wrap up, because I know
I've got the portfolio value thereabouts. I've got it coming in around about that 2.5 mil or just over. You've got your first deal will be worth circa 500K. Your second would be at about 350. Your third being that 5x2 be worth around 450 in this market. Your Southeast Queensland high set plus granny now, that would be a $750,000, $800,000 property post reno. That's getting you at 2.2, and then you just did the deal that just did the regional deal as well, which would be circa 300K right now. Literally just settled. That as a total is bringing in about 2.5 mil, and your debt on that combined, you'd be sitting well under 2 mil, or around it'd be under 2 mil.
Yeah, I think it might be around 1.5 or maybe just a little bit over that.
So around about 1.5 mil.
Yeah.
On a 2.5 mil portfolio. So you got around about 1 million equity.
I hadn't really, I guess, looked at it like that before. So
bloody hell. $1 million equity on a 2.5 mil portfolio. That's around about a 65% LVR on that size. That's impressive. Wow.
Okay, no, why? I have no money.
Well, you're just tipping it all back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. How good. I mean, I guess that shows the compounding effect of it. You're constantly putting it back into it. The portfolio's having growth. You're making the money on the way into deals, and the renovation side of things as well, which you've obviously been pretty active in within the portfolio. I think the growth, but is the big takeaway point here. Accumulating heavily early and then allowing that to actually take effect and compound from there as well. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And obviously your journey is going to continue. We're going to touch on that before we wrap up. But Sammy, you love this. If we didn't do anything and just sat on that over the next 10 years, 15 years.
Oh, yeah. The compounding effect of it, it's crazy. Rent's growing, prices growing, debt staying the same. Insane. Absolutely insane where this portfolio could end up. But obviously she's super young. She's got so much equity. She's got great cash flows now. Because that's the other thing as well, guys. She's literally built the portfolio and built into the portfolio these additional cash flow streams. This portfolio doesn't cost her anything. It's literally providing passive income, even at these current interest rates with where we're at right now. She's still got a passive income position on the overall portfolio, which is immense, man.
So where to next for you, Morgs?
I think I'm definitely keen to continue, especially now just settling on the other one. I'm probably keen to have another big year, maybe see if I can kind of beat the first year I had. But it would be good to have. I would love to have 10 properties I think that would be a nice
Another
nice
milestone.
goal. Yeah, another nice milestone to hit, and then kind of see where that puts me and what those properties look like to know what's going to go from there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love that. And before we wrap up, I know you want to wrap up. Do we have anything to say for other? Because a lot of our audience are men, right? Which is, you know, a lot of the clients that call in. But
100%.
and it's been awesome having you, Morgs. It's been nice to have a feminine touch to offset the bull shark in the ring.
Well, there's a lot of femininity normally, but it's nice to have an actual female projecting that.
And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but for some of our female listeners out there who are looking to get started, what would you say to them? Is there anything that you could give to them just to get started in their journey?
I think like it seems really daunting if you don't have the right people around you, but if you do have the right people around you, if you hire or surround yourself, whatever it is, it takes a lot of that like scare side of it away. And I think the more you do it, the less scarier it becomes. I think doing it, as much as I have Sam, like I am still doing it on my own. So, I'm a 26-year-old in like a bit of debt. But I think when you understand what you're doing and you can see like the results happening as well, and everyone around us is doing it, and you can see the results actually paying off. I think you just got to back yourself and do it. And just, I think getting into that first one, that's the biggest thing. Get into the first one, but then also not taking advantage of the fact that you've got the first one and letting go. Like even since the first one, I still try to put away as much as I can and continue saving, because I guess you don't know when you're not going to get the valuation that you want. So I'm not living any differently to before I started accumulating and buying all these properties. So I think that helps.
That's awesome.
I think it's been awesome, Sammy.
Fantastic final words.
What an incredible way to finish the podcast. I'm very inspired, Morgs. My favourite part is 4-zip. I'm not going to lie. But I'll let you wrap up, Sammy.
Oh, what a head. Guys, listeners, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you took great value out of this episode. Morgs, thank you for jumping on and sharing your story. I know you were a little nervous jumping on today. She was very nervous before she jumped on, guys. So
she didn't want to get in the shark cage.
But she knew you'd get taken out first, so she'd probably be safe, even though you're a bit of a toothpick. But anyway, listeners, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you took a lot of value out of that. I hope there's some ladies out there that took some great value out of this as well, and really feel empowered to go out there and make a bit of a change in your life and make some decisions. And fellas, if you're listening to this and you want to inspire your partner or your sister or someone that send it on and really, I think it's awesome. I love hearing about these ladies getting out there and having a real crack. It's amazing, because it
should be for everyone.
100%.
It should be for everyone.
Empowering themselves. It shouldn't just be for the fellas out there to have a crack. And I love that. So thank you very much for jumping on, Morgs.
Thank you.
Listeners, you took value, please send it on. As always, we're trying to build this community. We're trying to grow everyone's inner circle of influence so that everyone's thinking along the same page as us and along the same vein. So please send it on if you took some great value out of it to anyone you think could also take similar value. If you haven't left us a 5-star review yet or a testimonial, please jump on, leave us that review. And yeah, guys, as always, if you've got any questions, anything you want us to cover off, if you've got anything you want to ask Morgs, or if you want to send in your thoughts on the Potty with Morgs as well, feel free to send it in. In the show notes section of this episode, there is the email you can directly click into within that. There is also obviously socials at Australian Property Scout on both Facebook and Instagram. Got anything you want to send in, guys, send it in. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I bloody loved it. Jimmy took the reins. I sat back, had a coffee. I was just chilling out for a bit.
Absolutely loved it, Morgs.
He loved it. He got right in there.
You are officially the number one buyer's agent in APS, I've just realised. Go on, Sammy.
You are also the best looking guest, including co-host, that's ever been on the show. So well done on that.
That's easy there, Jeez.
Now, thank you very much. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed it. And we will be back very, very soon. Morgs, thank you once again. Signing off for another Scouting Australia podcast.